Howdy readers, I'm Jason, and this is Chapter and Verse, and today I am going to do, it's called the Oh Just a Terrible Book tag. I was tagged to do this in hilarious fashion by Just One Reader, and the original tag was created by Adrian over at Strip Cover Lit. So I went to the library the other day to get the books for my answers to this tag, and because one's answers to this tag are made up of books that you don't like for whatever reason, you have bad memories of, and so obviously you don't own them, and the library didn't own any of them either. So I thought that was a little bit weird. Part of me wants to commend the library for not owning any of these turkeys, but some of them were pretty surprising. They had a bunch of the Left Behind novels by Jerry B. Jenkins and Tim LaHaye, but they didn't have the first one. But I'm going to be using my old iPad mini to show you the book covers as I talk about the books. So, question 1, what is the worst book you've ever read for pleasure? And that would be 2012, The War for Souls by Whitley Strieber. And I was really excited to read this. There's going to be like an alien angle to it, and he was pretty well known, Whitley Strieber, for his book The Greys, and I think he wrote another book called Communion that he was about aliens that he was quite well known for. And I almost bought 2012 when it was in bargain at Barnes & Noble, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because it is a piece of shit. It's such a bad book. Yeah, there's, if I remember right, there's even a scene in the novel where Ann Coulter, right, the hideous Ann Coulter, that Ann Coulter, has sex with a lizard, I think, with like a lizard man or something. And not even that saves the book, right? Not even that. And that should really save most books. But not even that redeems this novel. Question 2, what was the worst book you ever read for school? And that would be a book I read in grad school for a class I took called Modernist Poetries. And that would be Tender Buttons by Gertrude Stein, which purports to be a book of modernist poetry. I suppose it could be called that. I have never read a book that made me feel more like the writer was laughing at her readers, right? Her readers who are, you know, making their way through these quote-unquote poems, talking about how profound they are, and oh, how fabulous, and you know, I can just see people, little, you know, pencil thin mustaches, smoking fancy cigarettes in cafes, you know, back in the early to mid 20th century, just sort of rhapsodizing about Tender Buttons, and I can just see Gertrude Stein just laughing at those people. It's a joke. Like, I got so worked up talking about this book in class, I actually felt the back of my neck getting hot, because I was just so angered by it. Yeah, and it's only like 120 pages or so, but it felt literally like it took me 20 years to get through. Number 3, who is the worst writer ever? I can't say ever, obviously, because there are mazillions of writers that I haven't read, but of those I have read, the worst writer would have to be the aforementioned Jerry B. Jenkins, who was the principal author on the Left Behind books. I only read the first one. That's this one here, and it's garbage. Aesthetically, artistically, theologically, yeah, there's nothing good about this book. I will try to, some of these books I've written reviews of on Goodreads, and some of the reviews are quite funny. I like to think anyway. And I will try to remember to link those reviews in the description box below. Number 4, worst book to movie adaptation. So this is sort of a fraught question. So what I'm going to do is give you as my answer an adaptation that I feel like is a really, really bad film of a really, really great novel. making the adaptation even more disappointing, obviously. So the novel is 1,000 Acres by Jane Smiley, which I have a first edition of right over there. And I love that book. I've read it multiple times, and I was so excited for the film when it came out. It starred Jessica Lange, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Michelle Pfeiffer, all actresses I really, really loved. And I knew 30 seconds into the movie, maybe that's an exaggeration, maybe it was like a minute or 2 minutes into the movie, but I knew right away that it wasn't going to work. And the reason why is, so in the novel, the character of the father, he's this kind of dark, glowering, silent presence for the first big chunk of the novel. Like, I don't think he says anything. There's just something very kind of sort of looming patriarch about him. And that's part of why the novel works so well, is that it sets up the character of that father in that way before all the kind of revelations start coming in. But no, not in the movie. In the movie, we see Jason Robards right away waxing poetic and philosophical about his farm and land, etc., etc. And it just, from the very beginning, you could tell that the screenwriter just did not understand the spirit of Jane Smiley's novel. And which is weird, because the screenplay was written by, I think her name is Laura Jones. And she wrote the screenplay as well for Oscar and Lucinda, Gillian Armstrong's film Oscar and Lucinda, based on Peter Carey's novel. And that is one of my all-time favorite films, adapted from one of my all-time favorite books. And she just understood, she just got Oscar and Lucinda in a way that 1,000 Acres just completely eluded her. Yeah, it's a terrible film. I think I gave the film a 4 out of 10 on IMDb. So, number 5, what is your least favorite type of booktube video to film? And that would be reviews, because I just find them incredibly difficult to do well. And I'm never terribly pleased with the results. Some people really like my reviews, for which I'm thankful, and I'll keep making them, but I find them just deeply challenging. Number 6, what is your least favorite type of booktube video to watch? And I would say probably wrap-ups or Friday reads. I hardly ever watch Friday reads videos. I'm not really sure why, actually. So let me not say Friday reads, because maybe I'd love Friday reads videos if I actually watch them. But wrap-ups, I tend not to really watch at all. Number 7, worst book cover ever. And I'm glad I didn't make this video like a week ago, because I would have had a different answer for this. And then this morning, I remembered a book cover. This book was always in stock at Barnes & Noble. I have no idea why. And it would just make me break out in a rash when I would see it, because I hated the cover so much. The book itself seemed just utterly ridiculous, offensively ridiculous. And that would be He Came to Set the Captives Free by Rebecca Brown, MD. Look at that cover. Look at that. Can you see that cover? Can you see that cover? That would be bad on like a 1981 heavy metal album cover. That artwork would suck even there. But on the cover of a book that is trying to be taken seriously, I think, I don't know, in the Christian inspiration section, it's really a joke. The description of the book is a joke. It sounds like a load of horse shit. This was published by a press called Whitaker House, I think it was called. And you always knew a Whitaker House book when it would come into the receiving room, because the covers just sucked. I mean, the production value on these things, the design, the aesthetics, everything about them looked, felt, seemed cheap, like they were printed out in someone's basement or something. But yeah, I mean, I just thought that was just horrible, like just the cheesiest damn thing imaginable. And the kind of book and book cover frankly, that makes it, unfortunately, difficult for some people to take religion as seriously as it should be taken. So I was in charge of the religion section at that Barnes & Noble. And because there was so much shit like that on the shelves, I actually commandeered an octagon display in the store and used it to showcase religious books that I thought had merit and were important and were beautifully designed as well. Aesthetics are really, really important when you're setting up a display. But yeah, that's a bad cover. Here, I'm just going to read you the description of the book real quick. For 17 years, Elaine served her master, Satan, with total commitment. Then she met Dr. Rebecca Brown. So this is nonfiction. This is claiming to be nonfiction. Who served her master, Jesus Christ, with equal commitment. Elaine, one of the top witches in the U.S., clashed with Dr. Brown, who stood against her alone. In the titanic life and death struggle that followed, Dr. Brown nearly lost her life. Elaine, finding a power and love greater than anything Satan could give her, left Satan and totally committed her life to Jesus Christ. This is an honest, in-depth account of Satan's activities today. You'll see how to recognize and combat the many Satanists who regularly infiltrate and destroy Christian churches. Recognize and combat satanic attacks. Recognize those serving Satan and bring them to Jesus Christ. And it has, on Goodreads, believe it or not, it has a 4.09 rating. Now, I suspect the reason its rating is so high is because no one is going to pick up a piece of shit like this unless they're going to be predisposed to like it. All right, somebody who has no taste, who has no kind of sophisticated understanding of faith or philosophy or life, for that matter. And I don't even know. I never saw anybody. I mean, nobody ever came through my line at Barnes & Noble buying that book. I don't know why we were modeled for it. I don't know why we had it in all the time. Yeah, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, nobody ever purchased it. But I don't know. I mean, clearly it has 7,176 ratings and reviews on Goodreads. So, yeah, anyway. Number 8, what is the least fun you've ever had reading a book? And that would be Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre, which was the first book that I read in graduate school. And I remember thinking, oh my God, if all of the books are going to be like this, I don't think I'm going to survive these 2 years. You see how the guy there is kind of holding his chest like he's got heartburn, like his gorge is rising a little bit, like he's nauseous. That's sort of how I felt while reading this book. It was just a slog. I mean, it was just an absolute slog. I'm not really sure the existentialists are for me, but I'm going to read a Camus book soon with Mark from Words Everywhere, and we'll see if Mark can help erase the memory of this novel from my graduate school days. Number 9, last book you DNF'd. So I don't really DNF books in the sense of like, oh, I'm not enjoying this, and so I'm just gonna, stop at page 200 or whatever and never finish it. If I stop reading a book, I always aim to get back to it. Now, it might take me years, but for instance, right, because I've been doing all the reading for the BookTube prize judging, I have yet to finish my March of the Mammoths selection 2666. I'm almost 700 pages into it, but I'm not done with it yet. But I haven't DNF'd it. I will be getting back to that either late this month or early next month, and I'll finish it. Same goes for the Shakespeare Wars, which I started reading last ShakeTube last September. And I got, I don't remember, 150 pages into that, something like this. And just got sidetracked with other books, but I will go back and finish that. So I don't DNF books in the sense that many people DNF books. And lastly, it says tag some terrible, terrible booktubers and insult them. So we all know this is tongue-in-cheek. yeah, when Juan tagged me, it was just hilarious. The stuff he said about me was just hilarious. So I'm going to tag Jasmine at Jasmine's Reads. So morose, Jasmine. So morose. And then Paul at PK's Books. Paul, must you be so shrill in your videos? Oh my God, like I can hear you from the other room. If I leave the video running, I can actually hear you in the other room. So shrill. So morose Jasmine and shrill Paul are the booktubers that I'll tag. I love you guys, and you know it. So that's it. I will see you guys again very soon with my video on Fearless by Peter Weir for the Mortality Project. I'm actually going to be rewatching Fearless tonight with Dan over at the Garage Mahal. We're going to smoke the toad. So I will see you guys again before you know it. Adios.